Hello, San Francisco. So when Walt Disney created Disneyland, he wasn't just building a theme park. He was building an experience designed for humans of all ages. He created an immersive environment for his beloved stories and cartoon characters to jump off at that screen and be experienced by families firsthand. He wanted families to be fully present, engulfed in the magic that he was about to create at the park. Walt cared so much about this experience that he even placed trash cans only 30 feet apart from each other, so not even trash could ruin the experience for another guest. He believed in stories first, systems second. Instead of building a park around existing off-the-shelf carnival rides, Walt hired Imagineers to go into all of the rides and the stories and the experiences and make something that was truly memorable for the guests that would eventually ride them. Every ride, every sound, and every smell was meticulously crafted so that the guest could have this magical moment and they could truly experience the magic of Disney. Each magical moment, when you combine it together, of the sights and the sounds, would be something memorable about the brand and the story that he wanted them to hear. But we've all gone to Disney and we've all experienced that, and we've told it for generations after generations. It's something that the brand has engraved into them. This approach has been replicated by books and business theories of how we should embrace the 100 years of Disney and continue to tell that story inside of our company, just like Disney did. But what we forget about is that the intricate systems behind the animatronics and behind all of the Disney experiences that we find so magical are very detailed. They take years and years and hundreds of hours of engineers to figure out all of those intricate systems and how they get pieced together. And in 2025, at all of these conferences across the country, we are all hearing that these systems are going to be replaced by AI. At Inbound specifically, all of the operations and hubs that you've been hearing about here are going to have agentic parts of them. And those systems are something we really need to think about how we're going to build them, not just for our company, but for the stories we want to tell inside of our own companies. I selected Disney for a very specific reason, because they've been using AI and machine learning for 22 years, starting with Lucky the dinosaur back in 2004. And there's so much that goes into these operations that we kind of forget that underneath the ground of Disney is a bunch of machines and animatronics that are operating to make our experience magical. There's water sprays, crowd control, timed music, park securities, ride times. All of this has been crafted by robots and machines to make it work and come together. So in the 22 years that Disney has been doing this, the one thing they have not replaced is the human experience. The smiles, the characters, all of the employees that they hire, the ride operators, and of course, Mickey. That is something that they cannot replace because it's the human experience. It's part of the story. It's part of why we go to Disney, to experience that for ourselves, for our kids, and for our families. When you interject employees to use AI, we have to remember that the systems are the things that the employees want to use AI for. Those mundane systems, the things that are not as exciting as creating the story for themselves or creating the story for the brand. With this framework in mind, we have to think of how we're going to install it. And I'm sure there's a lot of leaders in this room today that have the power to press a button and install AI. I mean, we can just use HubSpot now and say we're using AI inside of our company. But is that really the right decision? Is the intention to replace the employees? Or are we looking at these systems to enhance the product and the workflow by letting the employees know that they have a friend and somebody to go to help operate their day-to-day tasks? Today, I hope to show you a different angle from what you've heard at a lot of the other stages. Not specifically that HubSpot is going to work or not work, but how you need to think in the world of AI, and how you need to think of when you install AI, what are you actually doing to the people that are using it? Are they going to enjoy the experience, or are they going to get frustrated? HubSpot is a prime example of this. If you look across their LinkedIn, their leaders are telling their own story. Those stories are related to some of the HubSpot products, but they're also related to what they believe in true value-wise. And each of these individuals has been pushing this stuff on LinkedIn. Last year at Inbound, Darmar said, automate the mundane and amplify the magic. What a powerful statement from a leader who's looking at his employees as the ability for them to automate the things that they don't like while telling them that they can use some of the magic that's being created today. This will drive up higher revenues, and this will increase productivity because the employees will be excited to use those tools that have been given to them by leadership. So why should you trust me? So my name is Andrew Amann, and I've been building AI products for over a decade for companies like Experian, SimpliSafe, Consumer Reports, and FanDuel. We're a custom development shop, and we do consulting and product management, but we also build the products themselves. We built, I like to say that we focus on throughput, and we try to figure out how the systems that the employees are using can be maximized for revenue. We create 7-figure return on investments with just 6 figures of investment. We're pretty good at it too. Over the last 10 years, we released 150 products, and those products have never been as famous as if anyone's watched the NBA Finals and watched Charles Barkley get made fun of by a little chatbot. That was our engineers that built the technology behind the jokes and the text that was happening in those commercials for FanDuel. So what do? We meticulously look at the process. We look at true product management. What are the KPIs? What are we measuring? What is the purpose of this AI system? How is it going to be installed? And how is it going to achieve the results that the leadership wanted? There's 2 things that we can do with this concept. We are able to embrace the agentic future, but we're also able to increase revenue per employee while decreasing the time it takes for those employees to do those tasks. And I assure you that if you look at this system and you look at the processes of what the AI can do, the employees are going to be way more energized when they're involved in the process, enjoying that the systems are helping their day and doing the things they never wanted to do in the first place. Humans are storytellers, and it's important to remember that employees are storytellers and your customers are buying from you for the story that you're telling. A good example is a bowling alley. I like to use this as a metaphor when we're trying to consider how customers are going to succeed when they get this AI agentic future installed in their company for the first time. So when you go to the bowling alley, you have a bowling ball, and your goal is to roll it down the alley and knock over some pins. You're trying to figure out what is the KPI of that. Well, you got to do it for 10 frames, and there's 10 pins you got to knock down every time. It'll be very difficult to replace the human in that instance. I know Elon Musk or somebody could probably figure it out, but that's a very expensive replacement. What you can think about is, what is the goal? It's knocking down those pins. And how can I achieve that at a higher rate? How can I achieve that more successfully? How can I create something that's maybe smart bumpers or auto-adjusting lanes or a sophisticated ball return? How can I improve the goal of hitting those pins down every single time? That is what the agentic system should be looked at across the business. It's not just how the employees are going to use them, but what are the results going to be and how often are those results going to happen? We're going to increase the success. So rather than enhancing the human, right, rather than making the human stronger to bowl the ball, we're looking at freeing the human to focus on the enjoyment of the actual game itself. That's what they came to do. That's why they signed up to work for your company, and that's why your customers are buying from you. It's the game, it's the fun, it's the enjoyment of bowling. If you remove that, robot bowling doesn't sound too fun to me after all. And there's a lot of you in this room that can press a button and hit, let's go with AI. Are you going to do it by enabling your employees to use the agentic systems, or are you going to tell them that it's going to replace them? Of course, the agents can work 24/7. And I know a lot of you read this and thought, it'd be nice if an employee could work 24/7. But the reality is, if an employee is using a tool, they can start getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And those tasks that they're assigned to do will take less and less time. Over the course of the last 10 years, we've had ridiculous stories from our clients of returns. They're pretty profound. One $200,000 investment turned into $10 million of revenue. We've done 90% cost reductions by focusing on the idea that if we can work with the employees and assist them in the ability to enable these AI agents, they get very excited by the results and the entire company succeeds. So where can you find and set up these agents? Now, if this was a finance conference, you can talk to your financial department, and they're probably using QuickBooks. And you can install agents in QuickBooks and do all of that, of course. But at a HubSpot conference, we're talking about sales and marketing. And these systems are designed incredibly well to work with all of these agents that they've announced in the last few days. We've all heard about the Breeze Assistant agent. This enables your team to communicate with the data in natural language and get those results back. It helps them complete their tasks faster. We've also heard about the customer service agent. I think last year, you should have put this on your website with a knowledge base so that when customers interact with your website, they can get answers and they can get feedback from the knowledge base so you don't have to be that first line of defense. HubSpot's also touting a lot this year about the content agent. This is the ability for you to create information, use AI as an assistant to help you write more content for blogs, for case studies, for projects, and then send that information out to social media or create social media posts from that. And so that content agent is a very important aspect of using agentic systems. And then lastly, the one we're going to focus on today is the prospecting agent. So the prospecting agent reduces the amount of time and the manual time that sales professionals are doing for outreach, for cold emails. And it's something that can save a tremendous amount of time if you do it right with the right agentic systems. So now that you understand agents, we're going to deploy them. I'm going to go through an example in a minute. But I do want to talk first about something that I've been witnessing on stage and at events for the last 2 years. It's something that I can't get my mind across when I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm seeing that interfaces are dead. No one's going to be using or logging into applications anymore, and employees are not going to be using computers to talk to one another. When I was I was a nuclear submarine engineer about 15 years ago, and there's a giant board in the nuclear submarine facility of every part and every component, and there's stickers of are those parts going to be delivered on time. And when you walk into that room, it's a very visual representation of is the submarine going to go out on time or not? And if it's not, what are the actions we're going to take? HubSpot provides the tool for you to understand the visual representation of your sales and marketing through reports, through Kanban boards, through all of that information. It's not about replacing that. Employees are very energetic about getting an idea, doing research, presenting the results that that idea can have, and showing another employee. Then they go off and do research, and they try to figure out, is it a good idea or not? That is why interfaces matter so much. And I think the future is still going to be resolved around how interfaces interact with both humans and agents as we work together to create those reports. A great example of this, who uses an AI note taker? Yeah? Who doesn't use an AI note taker? We got a few. This is something that it's on every meeting with us, and it records, if you're not familiar with it, just records everything you say, classifies it, tells you who's talking too much or too little, and it gives you some little notes. I haven't logged into our AI note taker in about 6 months. Why? Because if I did, I have 5 or 6 sales calls a week. The first person I talk to on Monday, maybe I talk to them again next week, but this system isn't classifying it correctly. It's not really categorizing it. And if I want to look details up on like my Monday call, well, 2 weeks ago, maybe my employee sent a communication about that same client, and it's lost in the abyss of this tool. But if I classified it correctly and I import it back to HubSpot, I can use the AI of HubSpot and the classification of how HubSpot operates to never need to log into the tool that's recording the information and only need to log into the tool where I can gather the information. And that changes everything that I'm thinking about. Because if I can make HubSpot the hub, the center of all of the places that I'm interacting with any tool, any software tool, any employee, any phone call, if I can make it the center hub, then I can send all of the information back there so that the AI only has to read one piece of software. That's what's incredibly important. Once the AI is only looking at one place, it has the ability to do insane analysis that you've never seen before. And that's where, in June of 2025, I believe that all sales, operations, and the ability for us to create a good sales team has changed. Have any of you read Spin Selling or the Challenger books? They're great books for if you're trying to understand sales. And they talk about there's been 3 innovations in the history of sales. They say that it's focusing on the customer, scaling sales teams, and then the CRM tech craze that happened about 15 years ago, well, 25 years ago. Those have been the 3 innovations in sales since the beginning of selling. I think this is the 4th. And it's not just about the tools or the AI, it's about the ability of an MCP server that can read and analyze your HubSpot and its cadence and its timing and its accuracy and understand, just like a $100,000 sales coach would, what your team is doing well and what they're doing bad. So just so that you can take a picture of this, I put 3 aspects of what these, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how this works. So the first one is it performs in-depth research across really in-depth data of you specifically. HubSpot was built for all of us, but the way I use HubSpot is different than how this gentleman does. It's different than how you do. But that means I have a different cadence, I have a different product, I have different customers. And so that means when the AI crawls me, I want nothing to do with what his sales process is. I want it to understand my sales process, my team, and my employee cadence. And if I hired a sales consultant, they would then explain to me what I can do better or worse. The next thing is it democratizes advanced sales and marketing capabilities to be accessible to all of us for $20. Whether you're using ChatGPT or the new Claude connection or they're using Gemini soon, for $20, you can get an in-depth analysis specifically around what you're doing good at for closed deals, lost deals, proposals, whatever you have inside of HubSpot. And then the third thing it does, it facilitates precision-based marketing and sales to enable AI to fundamentally figure out a strategy on a per-account basis. Have you ever wondered which prospect you should be chasing or which lead is more valuable than another? You no longer have to wonder or talk to an employee that's been there for 10 years. You just have to go to their AI MCP and ask the question, analyze hundreds of sales, and tell me if this new one is good for us or bad for us. That's the power of what AI has enabled with these ChatGPT deep integration style stuff. All right, so let's combine agents, deep research with how HubSpot works, with company-specific sales, and then let's talk about how we can kind of micromanage this ourselves. Because if we have this AI assistant next to us, we have the ability to do things that our sales managers maybe have not seen before, or our employees next to us maybe are not doing themselves. So it helps us as an employee tell our story of why we want to chase a specific customer or get ahead. So we're going to go through 7 actionable steps here. The first one is perform deep research on HubSpot. You go into ChatGPT, you select the source, you select HubSpot, and you crawl it. What I do first, I usually just ask, like, what can I do? And it gives me a list of options and a list of, it like spits out this big report, and it's like, here's all the things you can do inside of the HubSpot MCP. What I specifically do every single 6 months is I look at my customer profile. It's an ICP. And I say, for the last 5 years, crawl all of the information across my HubSpot for closed-won deals only. Determine what my ICP was 5 years ago, which was, for us, it was small startups. Determine what my ICP is now, which is enterprise clients, and what do you predict it will be next year. And it creates this giant report. It tells me deal size. It tells me firmographics. It tells me how many employees at the company I should be chasing. It tells me the revenue of the company that I should be chasing. Next, I can go back into HubSpot, and all of those silly questions that seems like it takes years to fill in, and all the forms inside of HubSpot, I can just copy-paste the question, get the answer from my deep research, and paste it back to HubSpot. This is creating my brand voice. This is creating the tone and the functionality of how HubSpot can work for my company. The fourth step is to enable the Breeze Assistant so that when your employees or your customers are asking questions about your product, you're getting the same answers consistently that the employees, kind of like a culture test across your brand. The fifth step is to define your HubSpot ICP inside of your workflows and inside of the automations that you're creating. What this does, it gives you the ability to kind of filter how things come through as actions take place inside of HubSpot. We do tiers, but you can do anything your heart desires once you understand what your ICP is, and when a new person touches your website, you have the ability to send them through a workflow. The sixth step is to use smart properties. Have any of you used Clay? They're over there too. It's like an equals AI Excel sheet, and you can drag down the Excel sheet and say, every time a client does this, I want this prompt to go search the web, find some information about this person, and bring it back to HubSpot. We specifically do, we have a lot of industries, and we always argue about which industries we're chasing, and we say, what is the 3 words of that industry? And sure enough, every time we run a report, we have the 3-word, what do we call it specifically? We say that it's called the smart property, but it's the 3-word research tool. The 7th step is using your deep research to fill in your lead scoring. And this is where things get crazy. I promise you. There is so much you can do in lead scoring. How many employees? What is the revenue? What type of client? What is their job title? There's so many questions you can fill in about what your perfect firmographics is and what your perfect prospect is supposed to be. If you go to your ICP report that you got, and I showed you in step 1, you can fill this in with the weights that matter for you. Is an employee 7% of 100% of how important it is to your company, like the number of employees? Or is the amount of revenue that that company has important? This will tell you those answers. I have a 7-year-old son, and he runs around the house saying, let him cook, let him cook. So once you put this all in, you kind of just let it run. And for us specifically, every time a prospect or a lead comes to the website, we get a nice lead scoring tool that tells us, should we chase them or should we send them to a referral off to another client or another agency? We then can use the prospecting agent to research the client's company, determine if that company is something that's worth interesting for us, and then we find a case study that we've performed and match it to a potential case study that they might be after, all autonomously, and then we send an email out saying, hey, you might be interested in this specific healthcare case study because we have a healthcare case study we did 2 years ago that matches what your intent is from the form you filled out or from the information we gathered from you. Again, all autonomously. In HubSpot, like for 10 years, we all knew how to go from visitor to real person. We've all known how to filter spam. What I'm showing you today is the ability to take those intents from landing pages, from search, from YouTube, from Google Ads, and all of those places that your leads are, and add one more filtering level to it, which is your lead score, to only determine who your ideal customer is, to give you the power to go after the right people and automate the mundane, right? Exactly like Dharmesh said. So HubSpot becomes this outreaching tool. Once you've trained it on what you're searching for, your blogs, your Facebook posts, your employee task creations, your LinkedIn outreach, all of that can be automated through the system. Just for good housekeeping here, we update it every 6 months. We update our ICP, we update how the deep analysis is going to figure out how our new HubSpot is, but I also upload my 25 most recent sales calls. I don't have to write a report on the direction we're going. I just let those sales calls create a report that gets added to our ICP and informs HubSpot that these are the new people we're chasing these 6 months. I put the lead score on every report that is gathered across our company, and then I use that ICP report and all of the requests. I use Notebook LM, but if I'm on a call, I just type into the Notebook LM, what is the specific information that I need? So what is the future of work? We've talked about the ability for HubSpot to learn about all of the to learn about all of the information about your specific company. And if you're bringing all the SaaS tools into that HubSpot AI, you can now do things like deep research. No longer are your employees taking proprietary information, going out to ChatGPT, creating a prompt, and hoping that they get the right answer to bring back. You're losing control as a leader of your data, you're losing control of your security, and you're losing control of places that data can leak. That is, the higher you are in companies, and if you're in HIPAA or healthcare, those are places that just cannot happen. You want to keep it in-house, but you want to give them the tools that when they do that research and they do that analysis, they're getting the right answers and the trusted answers that your brand and your story is consistently telling. So you don't need to log into Gmail to use that AI. You don't need to use LinkedIn's AI. You feed the data to the one AI system for sales and marketing that can analyze everything. What this creates is more revenue per employee. You can start to see it now, because if I'm only focusing on the 10% of the valuable customers and I'm ignoring the 90%, that is how we're automating the mundane. But also the tasks that each salesperson is doing is becoming shorter and shorter because they're able to understand how the AI can help their days and help the work that they're trying to automate themselves. It's giving them the power to use those tools to increase revenue and do things that they find fun. They're playing the game. They're a salesperson because they enjoy the game. The work of filling in your notes after a call or after a sales meeting, editing the notes and sending it off, I'm not sure how many people enjoy that. But that's where the system and the agents come into play. And as leaders, we have to make a decision of, are we telling our employees we're replacing them or enabling them? And when you do that, this chart starts to take place. So in conclusion, we started talking at the beginning about Disney. And I love the Disney story because we all know how great that brand is, how strong the story is. But Walt specifically puts in his book, in his autobiography, story first, systems second. Every detail, every magical moment, he always considered, what does that do to my story? How does it make us a better company? What will people think of us if we automate this? So he put that stuff behind the scenes, just like HubSpot does. They put it behind the scenes. And even in the bowling alley analogy that I brought, the stuff that you can automate is not the fun part of bowling the ball, it's the part to make sure you hit all the pins down every time. Once you think of that, you look at your employees a little bit differently, or at least I hope you do. Humans will always produce quality work. It's our responsibility to enhance their craft. We all have a life goal, or they call it a life's task. It's something we're put on the planet to do that we are passionate about. And we are working at a company because we want to tell our story. Well, our clients and our customers also have a life's task, and they want to buy from people that have the right values and the right products that they can match to. So we have to create and produce this story around the thing we're selling. No more NAN like graphs on LinkedIn. That's the operations. People don't want to see that aspect of your story. They want to see, what does it do for them? That front of Abe Lincoln that I showed, that's what they want to see, not the back gears that look like a mess. And you have to think about that as you're telling your story on LinkedIn and how you're using AI. Because as your employees see you post that NAN workflow, they're starting to think, what's my job? What am I going to do here? But if you're showing them the benefits of what AI can do, and you're asking them for their assistance, they're going to start to feel empowered that they can help you and grow your revenues. There's a lot of leaders and a lot of talks that discuss how robots are going to assist us, whether they're in the human form fashion or on the computer. This is a picture I think that you're starting to see a lot across some of the tech giants, where the robot looks exactly like the human and is doing the task and is designed to do the task the same way that the human is. The hands, the head, the movements, it's all to mimic the human. I wonder if there's another world, and I like to believe that there is, where this doesn't exist for every single task that we're doing across our organizations. I like to think that robots should work like this, whether it's on the computer or in human factor, where the lady that's sitting behind there is doing something she loves to do, and the robot is assisting her. It's guiding her in a way so that she can complete what she loves doing at a faster pace with more enjoyment so that she can raise up in her company or at least start a new company that's going to change the world. These are the types of ideas that you have as a leader when you're selling the idea of like these robots. And you need to envision that there are two paths, and we really have to consider the feelings behind the people as we put them into place. So my challenge to you is to think about the story of your brand. What do you want people to listen to when you're selling your products? How do you want people to feel when they're purchasing from you? How do you want your employees to interact with those products? And most importantly, as you install agents, how are you going to work with them so that everybody feels excited to build the products together? It's not about why you're building products. It's not about what product you're building. It's about why you're doing it. And there's a quote from Disney. Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination left in the world. In 2025, I'd like to think that there's a little bit modification we can do to that quote. Your business will never be complete. It will continue to grow as long as employees are left to imagine. My name is Andrew, and thank you for listening to the talk.